Ford's toxic legacy began in the 1960s with its former auto plant in Mahwah, New Jersey, a factory so massive it was once billed as the largest in the United States. But before closing in 1980, it generated tons of hazardous waste at a great cost to the environment, much of which ended up in a 500-acre tract in Ringwood, New Jersey. In the late 1960s and early 70s, Ford contractors dumped huge swaths of excess paint sludge from Mahwah in the upper Ringwood community, a former iron mining region that's home to the Ramapough Mountain Indians. The Ramapoughs are a Native American tribe, and for decades were unaware of the dangers of the lead paint residue jutting from their yards and woodlands. Like many in upper Ringwood, MANN grew up surrounded by the sludge.
I used to dig through the sludge and through the garbage, and we used to play cowboys and Indians, and we would paint our face with it. We just scavenged, and they used to dump batteries or radiators or anything that we could salvage down at Patterson. And a lot of people, fed their families from getting the copper and all that, and it was sort of like an income.
Over time, the community blamed the pollution for a multitude of illnesses, including cancer, asthma, and other unexplained skin rashes. Ford has always denied responsibility for the illnesses, and a connection has never been proven. But longtime resident Kelly DeGroat isn't so sure. She's convinced that her son Colin's death in 2001 from rare bone cancer was caused by the toxic dumping.
I honestly believe it had to do with the sludge and the garbage, the gases that come up through the tubes in the back of the yard. I do. And, there's no change in my mind. There's too many around here that's been diagnosed with cancer and died with cancer. I have asthma. My little one has asthma. The whole area basically has asthma. There's always a breathing problem, issue. It's bad.
And Mickey VANDUNK also blames the sludge for his rare skin disorder, hidradenitis suppurativa, a chronic condition characterized by persistent lesions.
I actually think that this sludge they caused it. From when they dumped it back in the day. Yeah, we played in it. We never know. We, rode bicycles in it. Actually probably picked it up, used it like clay balls, throw it at one another. Run around in it, barefooted.
The normally reclusive community reached out to environmentalists, elected officials, and the media. The Record's Toxic Legacy series in 2005 outlined Ford's dumping in the community and other areas. The award-winning series showed how the government and Ford failed to do a complete cleanup. In turn, more than 700 former and current residents sought compensation and enlisted high-profile attorneys from the Robert Kennedy and Johnny Cochran firms and sued Ford and other polluters. In January 2006, the day the lawsuit was announced, attorney VICKI GILLIAM explained what the lawsuit entailed.
We're saying Ford knew that this waste was toxic, and they deliberately and negligently poisoned the people's land, and that the people have suffered. And the lawsuit is about redressing the sufferings and seeking justice.
In March 2008, Robert Kennedy visited the area, calling the dumping a failure of democracy.
Human beings made this decision, and they knew these houses were here, and yet they were dumping that paint. It's just, it's hard to comprehend. And these people, in many ways, they're not, wealthy people, but they were living in a paradise. And this company was like the snake coming into paradise and taking these beautiful streams and turning them into poison. This is crime. This is theft. It's child abuse. It's assault and battery. And in some cases, it's murder. And there's been a failure of government and a failure of democracy.
A settlement with Ford and others was reached in September 2009 for $12.5 million. After experts found it difficult to link between health problems and the exposure to Ford's waste. Residents started to receive their checks in November 2010, and the max payout is just under $35,000, with many receiving much less.
The amount given was a pittance compared when you look at Ford. What a corporation of that magnitude ended up giving was probably a vacation for a CEO for a week with his family. But, with a healthy family.
Meanwhile, this is the fifth attempt by the EPA to finish the job. The Ringwood community had been a Superfund site in the 1980s, but each time residents found more paint in what remains a huge embarrassment to the program. EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson, who visited the site while she was the New Jersey DEP Commissioner, promises the EPA will get it right this time. Residents remain leery and suspicious, though, and many are growing frustrated with the slow pace.
Since the cleanup has started, again after the 5th time, we've lost more people in the community. Me personally, I feel like like some days, like I feel like there is no time left. I think it could be years and years and years from now, and probably myself and maybe many more in the community will never see the cleanup.
Yet the EPA's Joe Gowers, who has overseen the project since 2004, says progress has been made.
Process of investigating and making sure we thoroughly investigate this area so that we don't miss paint sludge and don't have to come back again and be here doing the same thing. It takes a while.
Environmentalist Bob Spiegel says that the impact extends far beyond Ringwood.
EPA has to make Ford do the job and do the job correctly, because 2 million people drink the water that comes from the Wanakee Reservoir, and they all have a vested interest in making sure that the toxic waste that's up in Upper Ringwood gets cleaned up, because everything drains downhill.
Spiegel admits that all visible traces of paint sludge have been taken away. But because Ford says there are no records as to how much waste was dumped in Ringwood, questions remain as to how much more sludge remains buried in the ground.
I don't think we'll ever truly know where it all is. But one of the things that we do know is that it is in the mine shafts. It's in Peters Mine Pit. It's in Cannon Mine. It's at the O'Connor disposal area, and it's in the groundwater. And the areas that we know where it's at, we want to advocate, and we are strongly advocating that the EPA put their money where their mouth is and make Ford clean it up and completely clean it up. Not cap it, not cover it, not monitor it, but clean it up once and for all.
For many, Ford's legacy is a lasting one, with no end in sight. This is Thomas E. Franklin for NorthJersey.com.